A few dudes on the internet turns to a rider cast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural episode, the very first episode of Kamen Up Next Podcast. Episode 1, titled
A few dudes on the internet turns to a rider cast.
I'm your host, a giant robot. And I'm nervous as hell. I'm just gonna put it out there, so I apologize if I freak out. So yeah, like I said, this is the inaugural episode of Kamen Up Next Cast, our new Tokusatsu based podcast. I'm your host. I'm also joined by my two co-hosts. We've got Jesse. Say hi, Jesse.
Hello.
And we've got Nick. Say hi, Nick.
Hello.
Hello. So, this podcast goal, the way I see it, is to sort of document our journey as we delve into right now Kamen Rider, but kind of Tokusatsu as a whole. So every week we're gonna be talking about our experiences with Tokusatsu as well as the shows and episodes that we're watching right now. So the first series that we're really going to be talking about is Kamen Rider 01. That's the series that we're already watching. So I thought we'd start off by introducing ourselves a little bit, so that we can kind of discuss our previous experiences with Tokusatsu. I'll start. So I've been a Power Rangers fan for my whole life. I've dabbled in Super Sentai and Kamen Rider before, but for various reasons I never really stuck with it. Recently I decided to get back into Kamen Rider and kind of Tokusatsu in general, and I just kind of recruited these two to join me on my journey through all of that. Jesse?
Yeah, so a little bit of behind the scenes. As soon as this podcast went live, my headphones started dying and I had to frantically rush to replace the batteries, so that was fun. Yeah, so I've watched Power Rangers kind of growing up and in the past with this guy because we were brothers. Never really was super into it. Watched a bit of Super Sentai, but then earlier this year, both Zach and Nick decided to start watching Kamen Rider together, and I didn't want to be left out, so I just watched with them and got instantly hooked. So I've watched a few seasons or series so far now with them, and yeah, I'm loving it.
Cool. Nick?
I'm up. Yeah, Nick here. Those of you who follow Zach's stream might know me as I go by in these dark corners of the internet, Hot Chicken Sandwich. Zach and I have known each other for, I want to say decades.
At least 2 decades.
I think I could say decades plural. So we've known each other for a really long time. The dynamic of our relationship has always been that Zach usually uncovers something that I find really entertaining, or really and then we both kind of amplify and geek out over it to the nth degree. And I think right now, Kamen Rider is one of those things, and I think that kind of spiraled into this whole podcast thing that we're doing here. So really excited to be here.
Awesome. So for anybody watching who doesn't even know what tokusatsu is, I feel like I should give at least like a brief definition or example of what tokusatsu is. So tokusatsu, the name, is kind of like a literal translation for Japanese is special effects. So it's a genre of film and TV that's that uses special effects heavily. Most notably like pyrotechnics and explosions. There's often actors in rubber suits portraying monsters like Godzilla, or in Power Rangers, the monsters. Now it kind of encompasses all those superhero shows with people in spandex or like war blood plastic armor and stuff like that. But that's basically what it is. It's movies or television with a lot of special effects, like in the filming. Usually practical, but nowadays there's a lot of CGI as well, but it's mostly kind of practical special effects. Do you guys just want to get right into 01 then?
Yeah, I mean, unless we want to give a whole background into mine and Jesse's limited experience with tokusatsu is mostly isolated to Kamen Rider. So, we're going to be the ones that are kind of just on this journey with you.
I am kind of in this space the resident tokusatsu expert, but I'm by no means like extremely well versed in the subject.
Yeah, I think in our world, though, I think we see you as the expert. So if I like at any point in the day, just to put it into context for anyone listening or watching, if I at any point in time have a question about anything Toku related, before I even like go to Google, I'll ask Zach because I can get an answer usually quicker than Google can give it to me. So I think we're in good hands there.
I do a lot of research.
Yeah, usually for me, I just see stuff on the Kamen Rider Reddit page, and I go, Zach, hey, what's this about? Or hey, look at this. I don't know who any of these Kamen Riders are, but you might like this tier list.
That's pretty accurate.
We can give a background of what we collectively know so far. The three of us. Obviously, you,
True.
Zach, know more than we do. But as far as this journey so far, we've only started the podcast now, but we've been together on this tokusatsu journey for, I think, the better part of a month or 2 months.
No, way more.
More.
We started in January.
Was it in January? Okay, it feels like only a month ago. Time really flies.
Yeah, so
we started, I guess, in January. Then we started as what it was intention. Like my intention in the beginning was, Zach and I always wanted to just like have something that we can share and like have an excuse to hang out and talk. And in this last year, it's been not that easy to do that.
Super difficult.
Exactly. And I remembered that it must have been like 8 or 9 years ago now. I think the running Kamen Rider series at the time was Wizard. Right? Does that make sense?
It was 20... Yeah, it was 20. I want to say 12 or 13.
Around 2012 or 2013 that I think you were on this like rider kick.
Pun intended.
Unintended. But you were actually in the midst of just like binging all sorts of Kamen Rider. And we were just having a conversation at one point. And you casually brought it up because at that time I was super into Cowboy Bebop as an anime. And
that's true, yeah.
Like specifically, I had like Spike Spiegel stuff like all over the place. And you had told me there's this character from this Kamen Rider series that I really think you'd like. And that was Tendo Soji of Kamen Rider Kabuto.
Oh, yeah.
And then that kind of spiraled into like a whole Kamen Rider thing for me in around that time, around 2012. And I think we both kind of dropped it at one point.
Yeah.
For, I don't know how, like an extended period of time.
A long time.
But then, we've always kind of like still been interested in Kamen Rider, and you actually picked it up on and off again in the years that followed. And I hadn't, but I've always been meaning to come back to it. And this was like the perfect opportunity to say, hey, let's pick that up again. So we started in January. We started with
Build.
First one was
with
Build. Kamen Rider
We
Build.
started with technically we started with a random.
Oh, that's true. There was that one time we
Yeah.
watched the finale to Kamen Rider Gaim.
Yeah, we
first ever Kamen Rider episode.
Yeah.
let the random number generator decide what episode, season, whatever of Kamen Rider we were just gonna land on and start watching. And it just happened to be the actual finale of Gaim.
That's
with
right.
zero context of what was happening in the series. But the finale was cool enough that we were like, you know what? Let's actually pick up a series and watch it. And we landed on Build. I don't know how we decided on Build, but we did. I think it was just based off of the internet having generally positive.
I think it was internet's suggestion, and we chose Build and started from there.
And so we started watching Build, and I think the intention was it was going to be, something for you and me to have that excuse that we would, spend some time together and watch something. And Jesse tagged along with no intention of getting hooked on Kamen Rider at all. But then after a few episodes, I think we were all heavily invested.
Yeah.
I was literally just trying not to be left out, and I was playing Path of Exile while trying to read subtitles. And then, I don't know, 7 episodes in, I just got hooked. And after it's been it.
You got hooked hard.
Hard.
It was funny watching you guys get hooked to something that I've been in love with for 28 years now at this point. Just like watching you guys see or just be into superheroes, it was so cool because I've loved these superheroes for so long, and then finally have people to talk about it with now.
I think what must have been like really funny for you was our reactions to like the beginning episodes where we're just kind of making fun of everything and like not taking it seriously, and then there's that moment where we all
the moment it
invested.
clicked. Yeah.
Yeah.
the one moment of investment when you guys were like, oh shit, this is actually good.
Yeah, to be fair though, with Build, especially as far as how they henshin as a first Kamen Rider series, it seems absolutely ridiculous when they crank the
driver. They're
driver.
cranking on the driver.
But it ends up just being great.
The shaking of the bottles, cranking. Yeah.
So we blasted through Build, and I think we had a really awesome time watching that series.
Absolutely.
And we got so hooked that Jesse on his own started watching Kamen Rider Double.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple weeks where we couldn't watch because you were just too busy, and I was just jonesing for more Kamen Rider, and everyone on the internet says Double is one of the best series, and Zach loves Double, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch that, and boy, is that just an amazing series of Kamen Rider.
Double was the first series that I watched when I was getting back into it. In November, December, I think, around then. So Double was the first one that I started watching again. So I recommended it to Jesse when he said he wanted to start watching on his own. And then we recommended it to Nick because we both loved it so much.
Well, you guys just started incessantly talking about Kamen Rider Double. And I was like, this sounds really cool. And then one of you flat out said, I think it was Jesse that flat out said, Nick, you need to watch Kamen Rider Double.
It was probably Jesse, yeah.
Yeah. And then I must have been like a span of 6 or 7 days that I just watched the whole series.
You blew through that series. Like, it was like a week maybe of watching. Then you were done.
I wish I would have made it. I wish I would have made it last longer. It was actually joyous. But I mean so we had Kamen Rider Build that we were blasting through, and at the same time a couple of us were then hooked on Double. so we wound up watching and talking a lot about those two series, and then Build was through. We managed to blast our way through it, and we jumped. I think we had a list of series that we said, you know what, we want to watch. Well, we want to watch all of them.
Yeah. We had
But
some
were
that we
trying
wanted to watch a little more than others.
Yeah. And I think thematically, Kamen Rider X8 was pretty interesting to us. So we said, okay, just based off the theme, we're gonna put that next in the queue. And then we really light speed went through Kamen Rider X8. I want to say
We mega blasted through X8.
Like 2 weeks at most.
It was very fast, lightning fast through that series.
yeah, Kamen Rider X8 was especially fun, and I think we actually managed to get a non-Tokusatsu fan, your other brother, in the chat, kind of hooked on Kamen Rider momentarily.
For a brief moment, he was super into it.
Yeah, so that was fun. I think we all
we're just spreading the joy of Kamen Rider. Really.
Just
well, there he is in the chat. It is into 01 too.
It's just good. It's true.
Yeah, it's so hard to imagine that Vesperia actually was into something that we're all into.
Yeah, he was actually into something that other people enjoyed.
Yeah.
It was a miracle. That's the power of Kamen Rider X8. He brought back Vesperia's smile.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing with X8 though, out of all the ones I watched, it was definitely the hardest to get into. Like, it took a while to really hook me in, and like we said, James watched with us at the beginning and he didn't really like it, and then he came back like 11 episodes to the end, and that's when he got hooked. So it had a slow ramp up, but once it got there, that show was just
X8 was a harder sell than Build, but it had an equally good payoff at the end.
Yeah, and I think we'll definitely take some time to talk about it more in detail. I mean, the series we're going through now, though, is fantastic so far. So Kamen Rider 01, we started 2 weeks ago.
Yes, 2 weeks ago. And just to preface, Kamen Rider 01, I think is my favorite. So get ready for a lot of bias.
So Zach has completely watched the whole series.
I've seen the entirety of 01 already, and I'm watching it now for the second time for the podcast.
I think that's the thing that scares me most is when Jesse and I are going to be talking about stuff, you're going to have the context of where things lead up to. So we might be able to read it off your face when we're completely wrong about theories and things that we're talking about. So I don't know how you're going to be able to contain that, but we'll see.
I'm pretty good at it.
I kind of know some things because I watched the whole Henshin video. So I know some characters, I know some things that you don't know.
You know a couple forms, but you don't know any of the story beats.
No, but I know some stuff that's already like come up that's kind of secretive and where we're at that I wouldn't have known otherwise.
I will say I haven't seen any of the movies or the specials or anything that came out for 01. I've only seen the actual series. I watched it as it was airing, so but I still haven't seen the real-time movie or the special that just came out. Just for clarification.
I would have thought it would be called Real Eyes.
Well, Real Eyes is the name of the theme song.
Oh, okay.
So the movie's real time because it happens in a real. That I don't know if that's true at all. I just said that.
Okay. Do we want to break it down? I can go through. So we're 6 episodes.
7.
Did we watch 7?
Yeah.
Yes.
We actually watched 7? Okay.
We watched 7.
The 7th one is completely out of my memory, but we, like, in my eyes, we're 6 episodes in. I could break it down.
Go for it.
For the 6, okay? So it's been 2 weeks since we've watched the first episode, I don't know if everyone remembers it exactly, but I'll briefly
I remember it.
walk us through the plot lines, okay? So
Yes.
wipe your memory of everything 01 and imagine that we're going through it for the first time right now. Okay.
Gone. I don't
And
remember
for,
anything about 01.
for a lot of our listeners, that will be the case. But so it opens up, and as Kamen Rider usually does, Bill did this as well. They spend the opening shots of the episodes kind of introducing the world to you, and kind of with some speech about like what this world entails and what it's about. So they immediately shoot us into the world of 01. And right off the bat, we know it's a sci-fi themed show this time around. Kamen Rider basically changes the themes and the settings every season, right? So it's a completely different
every year.
So this time around, we're in a sci-fi themed show where in this world we have these humanoid robots that look superhuman, are called Humagear, and they're like personal robots that people can purchase and do and like help them out and help them around with stuff. They're made by a corporation called the Henshin Intelligence Corporation. And we learn that the president of the Henshin Intelligence Corporation has recently passed away. And then we cut to so that's kind of like an opening. It's like a soft open that Kamen Rider usually does, and then it cuts to the show. And when we cut to the show, we cut to our hero, whose name is Aruto. And we find out immediately that he's a struggling comedian who's not, I don't think, necessarily bad, because like no one actually boos him off the stage or anything, but I think he tells like dad jokes that aren't necessarily funny but aren't unfunny either. And he kind of gets fired in the like right after he does his set, and he actually gets replaced by one of those humanoid robots, the Humagears, who actually is just better at telling jokes than he is, right?
Yeah, he's actually funny.
Yeah, and after that happens, he gets scooped up by this like robot secretary who we learn her name is Izu, and he gets taken to that corporation, Henshin Intelligence Corporation's HQ, where we find out that his grandfather was the CEO of the Henshin Intelligence Corporation, and he's given the will of his grandfather to read out. So he reads the will, and in the will, his grandpa warns of some sort of coming peril, some sort of apocalypse that's coming, and then decides to leave the company behind to his grandson, Aruto. And Aruto, who already has like, plans and dreams of his own, he has no interest in becoming a CEO. I think admirably, says, no, this isn't what I want to do, and kind of walks away. But we know what the show's about, so we know that that's not going to stick. And actually, between that and the next scene, we get kind of like a flashback of Aruto as a kid and like what seems to be his like robot dad.
His father, who is a Humagear.
Who seems to be a Humagear. I mean, it's not actually stated out, but I think like
it's implied. He does have the headphone looking things on his ears, and I mean, so it's in the flashback. It shows him interacting with his dad, and then there's an explosion, and his father is injured, and you see all of the robotic parts in his face that have been revealed because the synthetic skin like melted and burned away. So you find out that Aruto, I think up until the age of about 10, was raised by a Humagear.
Yeah, and I think that tells a lot about Aruto's character too. I think that's a lot of like the purpose of that first episode. And I think in that scene he was actually in the middle of like trying to tell a joke or make his dad laugh or something like that.
He's trying to make his dad laugh.
Which would have made, his motivation to make people happy and to make people laugh, like, that, I think that cements that whole thing. But then after that we kind of get a shot of at least our villains for the first arc. I think these two cloaked characters that are introduced as Jin and Hirobi. And just like in Kamen Rider X8, in my opinion, they're just these cloaked and mysterious people that you don't know anything about. And their kind of purpose is they just kind of skulk around and turn regular old human gears, which are personal like assistants and robots that actually help people and are there to help humanity, into evil killing machines. So
It's super
Called Maggie.
called Magia, exactly. And they go by like this terrorist name of metsubojinrai.net. And their first robot victim that they take and they turn into a Magia is actually the comedian that replaced Aruto at his stage act. So
I wish I remembered his name.
I think his name was Taro.
It was something like that, or Momotaro or something.
Something like that. But it's actually a pretty jarring scene because this is a robot whose purpose is to make people laugh and make people happy. And then he's forcibly turned into a killing machine, which is kind of rough.
Yeah. Keyword being forcibly. It is by force. He's essentially reprogrammed. They put the belt on him and it reprograms him to want to kill and destroy humans. So I don't know if Aruto actually witnesses that happening, but he does witness the chaos that ensues after the Magia, the now Magia Taro. He sees him transform. So he sees him with the belt on, and then he puts the key in, and he watches him transform.
Right, he walks out on stage with the belt already on, and then transforms. And then starts infecting the other human gears around him, turning them into like Magia as well, and then they start attacking the crowd, right? Yeah, they start attacking the crowd and destroying the amusement park. So then Aruto witnesses this, and he's kind of like powerless to stop it, and he's seeing all this, this place that should be a happy place, just, filled with chaos and everything. And that robot secretary Izu, who kind of like dropped him off there, is still there. And she's holding the briefcase that contains the 01 driver and effectively the powers, right? So he knows that if I use that, I can stop this chaos and I can end this. So he gets, he asks Izu for that, and Izu kind of cheekily tells him, well, only the CEO of the company can use this gear. So she basically convinces him to accept his role as the CEO of the Hidden Intelligence Corporation so that he can get the 01 driver, transform into our hero, and take care of the big bad for the episode. So he gets the 01 driver. We get to see our first transformation, our first henshin of 01. And, the rest of the show is Aruto beating the big bad, and now at the end of it, we know that he's going to have to deal with monsters and corporate BS. So he, at the very end of the episode, he goes to there because people are freaked out that an AI started attacking humans. So Hiden has like a press conference, and he takes the podium as the CEO and basically states that he's going to be the CEO, and he's going to take his responsibility seriously and prove that it's not the human gears, that they're being manipulated by a terrorist organization. I think he name drops them as Metsubojinrai at that point. And but he keeps his identity as 01 a secret from the public. Yeah, you're right. It kind of feels like a Tony Stark moment in Iron Man. It was absolutely like that. All it was missing was him saying that he was 01. Yeah, that was the only thing was missing. Otherwise, it did absolutely feel like that. Yeah, it was absolutely that. So as for my first impressions of that episode, because I went back and I kind of rewatched it to just write that synopsis. Yeah. And it's a Japanese show, right? So when we're watching it the first time through, we spend a lot of time focusing on the subtitles and reading. So we're not hearing everything that's being said necessarily, or we're not processing it the same way. So the second time when I came back and I listened to it through, I actually heard some stuff that made sense. Okay, and I'm going to pitch it to you right now. Yeah, let's go. So Magia
like there's nothing magical about these guys, so the name is just kind of like stupid, right? You're thinking about it, you're like, okay, this is just like in Kamen Rider Build they were called Smash, and we just like dealt with it.
Yeah, we just
But then
accepted it.
I thought about it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I heard them say Humagear, and when they say it, they say Humagia.
Oh, you know
Okay.
what? I never caught that.
So then when you take out the hue, it just
Yeah.
becomes Magia, which is like kind of like Ma-Gear. And if you remember in Dragon Ball, when Piccolo entered the tournament, he was Ma Junior. So it's like Demon Gear, Ma Gear. That's what it I think translates to. I mean, in the translation and subtitle, they spell it as Magia. So we're just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
this must
it.
be some.
That's it. We're just accepting it as it's written in the subtitles.
Some magical thing.
Yeah.
But now it makes a lot of sense. I was like,
makes
you know what? I'm gonna share that today.
That makes a lot of sense. They remove the human and they just become Demon Gear. That's really cool. I had absolutely no idea. That's a big brain
Big
realization.
realization. More to come, my friend. More to come.
That's great.
Now you guys don't have to
that's
figure that out.
wonderful.
If you watch the series, you can piece it together.
Yeah, now you know.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's something.
So that was my first bullet point. The
That-
second bullet point I had for the episode, and
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you guys will agree,
Yeah.
amazing production quality
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
for
100%.
that first episode.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like the combat that was there. You know, in
Yeah.
Tokusatsu, the combat is what we're there for.
Yeah.
Right? So
Fight scenes are a big part of it. So.
the fight scenes were absolutely super well coordinated. I think there was a motorcycle scene in the first episode that was actually really, really cool and really well done too.
They did have a bit of motorcycle play, yeah, for sure.
The wire work on the stunts,
Yeah.
just incredible. And then we have to talk about the Henshin sequence, right?
Such
so
a
good.
good. It's such a good henshin.
So I'll read it out, okay? Jump. Authorize. Prague rise. Rising Hopper. Followed by our favorite portion, a jump to the sky turns to a rider kick in that text-to-speech voice.
The text to speech is the best part.
Yeah, it's so good.
of
It's
the
my
whole
favorite.
thing. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So it's not actually common in my view that the rider belt talks so much and has so much text. I think it's one of those things where we know that the writer for 01 is the same as X8, and the
As
X8
X8,
driver was kind of obnoxious too.
It was, yeah. It had made a lot of noises.
I mean, Build One talked a lot also, but it was also just amazing. So
That's true. That's true. It might be one of those things that maybe like late Heisei had it, like Neo Heisei maybe started it, and it looks like we're kind of following up in the same thing. And I like that
Yeah, we're
actually.
keeping it. I think it's great.
I
Yeah.
do like it.
It's
I
just like
the-
extra little catchphrases for the belt to have more than just, you know, the things it always says. At least this way, like every form has a different catchphrase. It's almost like Kamen Rider O's, how he'll have different jingles for the different metal combinations that he has.
I'm gonna
So it
blow your
keeps it
mind
fresh.
with an O's thing actually later, because O's actually comes back in 01. I didn't think of it, but then like in one of the episodes that we watched on Thursday,
Mhm.
there's a very clear O's reference. I'll break
I
it
will-
down later.
I'm not
We'll
thinking
get
of
there.
it now, but I might have realized it
You probably
in
did.
the moment. Yeah,
You probably did.
I can't remember
Um,
it now.
To the point of the text to speech, like for me, it makes me like 10 times more excited to see a new rider or a new form just to
Yeah.
see what it's gonna say.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like
It makes everything like just that much more exciting to see what that form's catchphrase is gonna be.
90% of my notes are just the catchphrases of each form.
The full Henshin sequences. That's part of my notes, my guy.
Yeah.
We're gonna go through them all.
The little the jingle it makes when he scans the key is my new follower alert. So I just hear that every time,
Someone follow so we can hear it.
and I get infinite serotonin every time I hear that noise.
Oh man, and just the whole, even the visual of the Henshin sequence.
Yeah.
So there's the giant grasshopper that gets beamed in from the satellite that starts jumping around and then decomposes into the armor that makes up 01, which is really, really cool.
I really like that about his design, how his base suit is just like black with like things for the armor to stick onto, and then the different keys kind of create the energy that turns into the creature that breaks off into the armor that becomes his costume.
It's a lot like the in build of the tank and rabbit forms. It's like that same sort of thing.
Yeah. Where it's like just pieces coming together.
He starts just in a black suit and he like pieces them on.
Gaim is actually similar to that as well. It's like a base suit, and then the fruit creates like the actual armor over their like base armor.
Yeah.
It's a cool concept.
So yeah. Sure. Another thing I love about the Henshins is just the timing of all the audio is just on point. Like the text to speech comes in like as it's winding down and he's fully Henshin.
Yeah, he's just posing there like super cool. And it's doing like the flash to show you like what he looks like. I'm into it.
Oh man, we should get the audio sound bites prepared for those things next time. I think it really hits home because you're right. The timing of every element that comes into it is just spot on. It hits all the right spots.
In the YouTube video of this, we can link down below the clips to the Henshins or something, or the sounds.
Yes, 100%. We can edit them in too, possibly.
True. Potentially.
Yeah. The next thing I had that I just kind of stumbled upon. So MetsubojinRai.net, the terrorist group that's causing the havoc that gets introduced. I looked up the translation. It actually translates to Thunderclap of Death.net.
Really?
So I like, in case you wondered what it means, it's like Thunderclap of Death.net.
Nice.
Sure. Well, even I mean, it makes sense, right? Because they're risers, the ones that they give to the Humagears, the Zetsume riser. Zetsume translates to extinction, which is what their aim is, to make humans go extinct.
Okay.
So when the bell goes, it's Zetsume Rise, it's Extinction Rise, but that's their goal, is to wipe out humanity.
Okay. Oh, another thing you'll recall, when Aruto Henshin the first time, he was brought into like this tutorial area. Like Matrix.
He linked up with the satellite Zaya.
Yeah, and he was just in this like white space where it's like, okay, do you want to learn how to use your powers?
Yeah.
Yes. I thought that was really cool. Actually, you never see that. But it was awesome.
It gave like it gave an explanation to why he would know how to use everything like right off the bat.
And it's not perfectly though.
No, he's still learning for sure. But
it's very video game like, and I mean, when you get out of the tutorial of the video game, you're not perfect, right? So
yeah, that's true. And the perfect example of that is when he does his finisher the first time, the rising impact.
Yeah.
He kind of, and I thought this was awesome and actually like kind of adorable, was when like R2 does the rider kick, right? The rising impact, jumps into the sky. We get like this awesome finisher that I don't know if you guys want to talk about, because I don't necessarily remember the first time seeing it, but it was really cool. What I remember is when he landed, he didn't exactly stick the landing, and he just kind of
he like rolled his ankle and like slid for a bit.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So you can tell that, okay, I just learned that in the tutorial and I'm doing it for the first time kind of thing.
There's also, I think, in the same fight, like he jumps up to like the top of a roller coaster or something, and he's like, "How high did I just jump?"
He dodges the track. Yeah.
Like he's
super
not
high.
used to his powers.
Yeah, that's it. He's getting used to the extent of his powers.
I think the fact that that Aruto's so lighthearted is awesome for this series, because I when I rewatched the episode, I also realized there's a lot of darkness in this show too that completely gets offset by the lightheartedness of both Aruto and Izu actually, because Izu does some kind of cute things every now and then too. Like in that combat scene when she hands him his weapon, we need to look up what it's called because I completely forgot it. It's the briefcase that turns into a blade, but it kind of just bonks him on the head in the middle of combat. It's like, what the hell, you know? And then he just starts like it was one of those.
Does it have a name? I know it says like Blade Rise when he opens it.
I feel like I know what it's called.
Blade Riser.
And now I can't remember.
I think it's like attaché something. It's like a briefcase something.
I can look it up right now.
I've got it.
But anyway, okay, while you're looking it up, that's like the lightheartedness of the show, right? You've got like your goofy kind of like lead character and his assistant.
Yeah.
But then when we see the Metsubo Jinrai guys, Jin is just a complete.
Sorry, it's attache caliber.
Attaché caliber, so like briefcase caliber, basically. Yeah. It's freaking awesome.
It is very good. That's a really good.
Yeah. So, you know, all that is like completely lighthearted. And even the way like 01 looks and fights is kind of like, you know, kid friendly. But then you've got Jin, who's just a complete maniac, carries around
an actual real gun.
Real ass gun, not a toy, right?
Not a laser gun.
Like if you're a kid that's a 01 fan, you're not going to go and buy, you know, the.
Oh, this is Jin's gun.
I want the Jin gun.
Jin's pistol is a real ass gun, and in the episode, he actually. I didn't remember it the first time through, but I rewatched it. He actually just caps one of the Magia like in the head.
Yeah.
With like the hole and everything.
He straight executes it.
Straight up executes it, and you're just like, okay, that's pretty dark right there.
You're like, oh, this show's for children? What?
But it completely gets offset, I think, by our lead characters.
Yeah,
really
I think sometimes you forget how dark it is. I mean, like, especially when you consider the main goal of Metsubo Jinrai is the complete extinction of humanity. Just
to be fair, it's actually kind of a common theme in Kamen Rider from what I've watched.
True. Yeah, maybe
that was the goal of the.
Maybe it's a little desensitizing in that sense, but I mean, they're a terrorist group, like, and they're called a terrorist group inside the show. It's not just for fun. They're legitimately like terrorizing Japan.
Yeah. Another thing I love about
citizens
about the lighthearted nature of Naruto is just the like how his suit makes him look pissed because of the mask.
The mask,
like
he's an angry person,
yeah.
Even though like under the mask he's literally cracking jokes.
The juxtaposition.
Yeah.
It's really great. I think stylistically 01 is one of the nicest looking Kamen Rider that I've seen.
I love
for sure.
01 costume with all my heart.
And to your point about cracking jokes, I never realized, but he is kind of like Spider-Man-esque in that sense.
He has a lot of banter,
which is my favorite thing in the world. So
so it's because like he sees the Magia. He's to him they're not like monsters or enemies. So he treats them like he treats normal Humagear, normal people. Well, I mean, he treats Humagear like he treats people. Like he doesn't see them.
Yeah.
He doesn't see the two entities as different like things. He treats everybody the same way. So he banters with the monsters because he just sees them as the Humagears that he was just talking to 5 minutes ago, you know?
Yeah. And to James's point in the chat, sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, so in Japan, Kamen Rider is technically like a kid's show.
Yeah, Kamen Rider is aimed at children in Japan.
It is definitely more darker tone. There's blood.
Yeah,
wounds,
there's blood, death.
So it's not something that in North America you would consider a kid's show, really.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of blood and death in Kamen Rider.
Yeah, it's also a show that's been on for generations, and I think they're aware of that, so they know that there's
for sure.
a really wide audience for what
Mhm.
they're showing, and that there's people that have been watching it for decades, to the
Toei
point where
Toei knows for sure. in
exactly
Japan.
to the point where we measure rider um like eras in actual like
Oh yeah, in
Japanese eras.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the era of their respective emperors.
So we can actually that was all the first episode, man.
Yeah, let's go to the next episode.
That was all the first episode. Is that? I mean, we can.
We could talk about also how awesome the 01 driver is and progress keys in general, but I mean we can I guess we can do that as
we can do overviews for sure.
Well, what we can do is we can go through the rest of the episodes, maybe a little not as long. We don't have to go into as much detail. I think the first episode was definitely a lot more important to go over what the show is like, set the tone so people understand, and we can just kind of breeze through the rest of the episodes.
So episode 2, honestly, I don't even remember all that much about it. I just know that Aruto is basically hiding his identity as 01. He doesn't want everyone to find out. I think Izu's the one that says, you should probably keep this on the hush.
Well,
hush.
So yeah, it was Izu. It's because in episode 2 we're introduced to AIMS.
Yeah.
AIMS, which stands for Artificial Intelligence Military Service.
Yeah, and they were in episode 1 when he was fighting the Magia. They were like clearing out the grunts.
Oh, they were clearing out the grunts. That's right.
But then they go to Hidden Intelligence in episode 2 to like question on what the heck happened.
We get them a little more fleshed out, or they get a little more fleshed out in episode 2. We get more introduced to Fua and Yaiba.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they were introduced, at least for me, it was like immediate for me that okay, this is going to be our supporting cast. This is going to be our secondary riders right here, because I think we got like even in the first episode we might have seen some progress keys in their possession.
So in the first episode, while they're fighting the Magia, Fua's one of the only 2 people without like face obstructing helmet in the AIMS like group. It's him and Yaiba, and they're all like they're shooting and their guns are doing nothing. So he runs back into the truck and he grabs a special gun that does more damage to the Magia. So it's like a little tip off of he's important.
Dude, I'm pretty sure they show he tries to use the progress key, and then Yaiba's like, "No, you're not allowed."
You're right. I think in the
was that episode 1 or 2?
I think so. In episode 2, he does.
He succeeds in episode 2. That's one of the highlights of episode 2, and I think what we're going to be talking about for episode 2 is
Fua was the highlight of episode 2. 100%.
I can take us through episode 2 more or less. I think I remember it pretty well.
Sure.
Is Aruto shows up to Hiden, like basically it's his first day proper, and he tries to like get into the building, but he doesn't have authorization, of course. And then he meets Humagear, Momoru, I believe is his name, and then he talks to him, gets to know him, and then he lets him through. Then the AIMS people show up, questioning him about the event that just happened, and also the kind of background story of the explosion that happened in Aruto's past that we talked about earlier, and what happened to the city. It's called the Breaks Day, I believe.
No, Daybreak City.
I'm thinking Begins Night. Daybreak. Yeah. Right. The city got exploded, and people are blaming, or they're trying to pin it on the Humagear and Hidden Intelligence specifically.
Daybreak Town. Sorry.
So they're there questioning him, and of course, while they're questioning him, Mitsubo Jinrai shows up, and Jin specifically, and turns Mamoru into a Magia. So they all rush down. I believe Fua starts engaging him just in human form.
Yeah, both Fua and Yaiba.
And Yaiba.
Yeah,
and
they're both there.
And then Aruto is like gonna go help, or actually Aruto's just standing there not doing anything, and then Izu's like, "You should go help, but don't let them see you transform."
Yeah. So
then he henshins and helps. And But then Fua starts fighting him, I think, because he's like, "Who the heck are you?"
Well, so what happens is so it's not Momoro first. They change another Humagear.
You're right.
I think it was like a delivery driver.
You're right.
And then he attacks Momo, and then they turn Momo. So Fua and Aruto have to separate, and they're each fighting one, and that's the moment.
Okay. I can distinguish this now. I remember it's the other one. They're fighting him. He gets away. Fua continues chasing him, the one that gets away, and then Aruto's just like in the building, and Jin shows up with Momoru, whatever his name is.
That's right. Yeah.
And he like shows him turning him into a Magia, and then that's when he fights Momoru.
That's right.
And then Fua follows or finds the other Magia and starts fighting him, but he's obviously a dude with a gun, and he pulls out his progress key, and still without authorization, he just forces it open.
He angers it open.
And you know what? When you're reading the subtitles, you don't really like laugh as much and notice it as much. But like when you're not reading the subtitles and you watch that a second time through, and you see Fua, which is a grown ass man, struggling to open what's clearly a children's toy.
A toy, yeah. Something that's also clearly not locked or hard to open, and he's just pretending. Yeah.
It's so special. It's so great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think Fua forcing the progress key open is really great. And then I think that's the highlight of the episode, really, right? I mean, like,
oh yeah, the arrival of Kamen Rider Vulcan is 100% the highlight of that episode.
Yeah, that's the purpose of the episode is to introduce us to Kamen Rider Vulcan. And there's also like a little bit of, holy shit, the poor robots are being forcefully brainwashed.
Oh yeah,
into violent and evil, and there's no way to actually save the civilians without killing them. So
that's it. Like, that's what we find out too.
Well,
he has to destroy them, but so
that's what I don't understand about that, because at the end of the episode. So he gave Momoru like a little band around his arm originally, and then we see after he defeated them, whatever, Momoru's there again with the same band. I think it's implied that it's like they made a new copy.
They don't explain it in that episode, but yeah. So after they get to because they're AI, so their intelligence gets saved, so they can just build a new model, like a new robot, give it the same kind of skin, and then it'll have all the memories and everything of, maybe not all the memories, it's kind of iffy on that, but it'll be the same Humagear that it was before it got corrupted. Because it was in episode 3,
the next episode.
Yeah. So in episode 3 you have the sushi chef Humagear.
Wait, before we go into that though, we need to say ball it.
Oh yeah.
Ball it.
Yeah, we should talk about Vulcan and his design and everything.
A little bit because it's too good. So
it's really good.
Vulcan uses the wolf progress key, right?
Shooting wolf, yes.
Shooting wolfu, yeah.
Yeah, shooting wolfu, yeah.
So his whole thing, man. Okay, so they've got like the Ames people have instead of having a 0-1 driver, they have
they have the shot riser.
Yeah.
Thank you, the shot riser.
Oh, I know all the names.
They shoot it. His specifically says bullet. And then authorized and everything. But what's really cool about Fu is I really like the fact that he punches the bullet, and then the bullet kind of like disperses and becomes the armor around him.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool, honestly.
And I think the shot rise has like henshins are a lot like Iron Man, like we were saying with the press conference thing. The way it like builds up around him is really reminiscent of MCU Iron Man.
When you think about it this way too, right? So 0-1's armor comes from the satellite. That's why his like beams down from the sky and it creates the big thing. They don't have that. It's coming straight from the belt.
From the wallet.
Yeah, from the bullet. Do you want to hear a cool fact about Fuwa's transformation?
Yeah, go.
It was all decided by the actor. Ryotaro, I believe is his name. He has a YouTube channel. And in one of the videos he talked about how he was the one who decided, like, he thought it would just be cool if he punched the bullet and it transformed him. So that was his idea. Right. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, he was absolutely
he had it right 100%.
Well, that's interesting. So he actually came up with it. That wasn't the showrunners.
No, that was his idea. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His instincts served him well, because that's one of the coolest.
It was also in this episode that I realized that 01's grasshopper fucking wrecks a lot of shit when he transforms.
Oh yeah. It just it breaks.
They
everything.
went out of their way to show like glass ceilings being shattered when things hopping around.
It's not fake. It's really there.
Yeah,
and it will wreck your shit.
Yeah, and then so of course with Fuwa's Henshin, we get probably the text-to-speech sentence that makes the least sense that I've seen so far, which is the elevation rises as the bullet is fired. Still don't know what that means.
If we translate it to Japanese, it might make more sense. But I actually love it the way it is.
I think that's the opposite of what happens when you shoot a bullet. I think the elevation slowly lowers. So I don't really get it.
It's up to interpretation, I think.
But I love it.
We made a dirty version of it earlier.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that right now. Maybe later.
That'll be for the OnlyFans or something.
Acceleration would make sense.
Acceleration would probably make sense, yeah. You got a point.
That's pretty much episode 2, right? We could just bomb right into episode 2.
Yeah, episode
also,
2, yeah.
For those watching, if we haven't put a clip to the sound of the text-to-speech, if you go to ttsdemo.org or something and choose James US voice and type them in, that's pretty much what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's it. The text-to-speech voice that they chose is a very easily accessible voice. So that's how we got the intro to the episode. I'll play it again. You guys can hear kind of what it sounds like.
A few dudes on the internet turns to a rider cast.
So it's more or less what it sounds like when it when it talks.
That pause was because I was watching the stream on a delay to hear it. And yeah, it's kind of obvious that's kind of a play on a jump to the sky turns to a rider kick. We use that for the episode name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So episode 3.
Episode 3 is the sushi chef episode.
The sushi chef one. So I think it opens with him like going to bring the Humagear to the sushi shop.
It opens with him in the sushi shop already with the Humagear sushi chef making the sushi. So basically Aruto, as the CEO of the Hidden Intelligence Company, personally goes to every potential client to sell Humagear to them. So in episode 3, we see him trying to sell a sushi chef to a sushi shop.
Can we pause for a second though?
Yeah.
I think, the oversimplification of a CEO's job to being like taking care of PR problems, I think amplifies the show for me even more. You know what I mean? Like I just love it so much that this guy's the CEO, but he's just going around.
He's doing all the legwork. Yeah. He's the one doing all the legwork. I think it's great. I mean, like personally, if anybody was gonna sell, I think if anybody's gonna sell a Humagear to anyone, it would be Aruto.
True.
But so he's trying to sell this sushi chef Humagear to this very popular sushi restaurant called True Heart Sushi. And we find out that the owner and head chef, I think only chef actually, of the restaurant is super difficult to work with. He doesn't believe in Humagear because they have no heart, and even regular humans who try to work for him end up quitting because he's too harsh. So like the primary focus of the episode is Aruto is trying to teach this old man that human gear have heart and aren't just, emotionless tools. Unfortunately, at some point during his interactions with the old man, the sushi chef Humagear gets corrupted, gets linked to Metsubojin Rai, and Aruto has to fight it. Luckily, though, the old man is very malleable and he doesn't get too afraid of the Humagear after this, despite the fact that he literally got attacked by him.
This happened right after he was starting to like.
Yeah, he finally
accept
started to
Sushi
like
Chef.
him. Yeah.
So when he turned and then like the bad guy showed up, the old man actually was like, no, he's not just a thing. He's got heart because
he rooted Aruto on to try and save him, which
So
I thought was like kind of a subversion of expectations, because usually in I would say Japanese media, but probably all media, when you have a character who's like kind of on the fence, like even if they're leaning into being okay with it, when something like that happens, they're usually like scarred and traumatized, and it takes more work to make them accept whatever it is you're trying to get them to accept. But the old man kind of was 100% in. Like, he went from 0 to 100 and never left 100, essentially, which I thought was pretty cool.
The fact that I know that you guys got all of that, which is really insightful and really great, and I agree with all of it, from what I know to be a bullet point that we took that said old man equals Pog.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I think that's just magical.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. I think the tone of this, but you know what? The tone of this episode was actually a little bit funny for me because, we're on this journey. We're relating to the old man because, we're kind of seeing it through his lens, where we're like, these things are trying to replace this kind of thing. And then we warm up to them, and it's like we find out that the human gears actually do have heart, and they aren't these dispensable things, and they have individual worth. But then at the end of the episode, we legit replace one with another and say, fuck it, we'll replace them.
Well, it's
So
to be fair, it's the same model. It is the same, like he has the same face and everything. He just doesn't remember, because if you remember, to impress the old man, he learned his like super secret technique.
Yeah.
And I forget what it was called, but then he didn't remember it because they had to make a new one. So yeah, it is like a little juxtaposition, I guess, where they're like, yeah, they're a little bit expendable.
Well, I think tonally, I think it, like, tone-wise, it would have been better if we would have mourned the first Nigiro, I think was his name, which is actually pretty cool because it kind of sounds like Nigiri.
Yeah, that's a good name, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if we would have mourned him for like a second until like before we introduced a new model version of him, I think it would have helped. But the fact that they just replaced him, it was a little bit weird. It was a little bit jarring.
Well,
that's why we have Aruto, who like still treats them like they are a person, right?
Yeah.
And values their lives, even though you could make a new model that'll have the same personality.
Yeah, I think that actually speaks a lot to Aruto's character, and I think that's one of the reasons why we warm up to him more and more, is that like he's the guy that has the most heart in the show so far.
He endlessly believes in the human gears, like right from the beginning, so it helps you. It helps you as the viewer feel the same way, because you're not dealing with a character who's like learning to empathize with the human gears or whatever. He like from the get-go like just loves human gears. So it helps you like feel the same way.
Dude, we talked about like a lot of like serious plot elements here, but just like, action wise in this episode, we got introduced to a new Kamen Rider.
Well, I think first we should talk about Aruto got his first like new form.
That too, we got a new form and a new Kamen Rider.
Yeah, we got Shark.
Yes, we got Shark. Yeah, Fang.
Biting Shark.
Biting shark. Fangs that can chomp through concrete.
I love that one. The use of the word chomp is my favorite.
Yeah.
So Izu basically actually goes off and creates the shark progress key as a countermeasure to the squid Magia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, before we actually talk about how awesome that form is, which it is, that squid Magia looked awesome, didn't it?
Yeah.
It did, and I just had the sudden realization that it was the squid sushi that he was making for the old man, and then he
Yeah.
turned into
He turned it into the
Into a squid, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
These things are on purpose.
Yeah.
I have to say, as far as like 01 is concerned, I don't know if this is like a thing for like the whole, because 01 is the first entry in this era of Kamen Rider, right? So it's
the first Reiwa. Yes.
It's the first of the Reiwa era of Kamen Rider, and I think a lot of, well, this might be my own speculation, but I think a lot of Kamen Rider fans are looking for things that might be revolutionary or new.
Yeah.
Kamen Rider starting from this series onwards, and one of the things that stuck out for me specifically, and I think it sunk in after this episode, is when I saw the Squid Magia. Usually the regular old villains, and I'm thinking of like the Dopants in Kamen Rider Double, for example. They're not like, I wouldn't personally go out and buy like figurines and toys of those things because they didn't look necessarily cool. But Kamen Rider 01 makes me think differently about like your general monster of the weeks. They put a lot of effort, and it looks like those suits that are created for the Magia are generally much more intricate and well done than they were in the past.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've realized also is that, okay, so, you know, the villains have always had like something that turns them into, you know, the monster of the week or whatever. But the whole Zetsume Rise keys and like even the belt and everything, like it might be something that you'd be willing to, as a consumer, say, I'm going to go out and collect those things too because they looked cool. And I think like putting emphasis on not just the protagonist but also on the monsters of the week and the villains is actually pretty cool and might speak to the Reiwa era in general. And I hope so, because it allows for a lot of growth too.
I can't speak on that because I haven't watched enough Kamen Rider Saber. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. But I'm hoping that they start to, I will say some of the designs I've seen from Saber are pretty top notch. So I'm looking forward to like the designs of monsters and villains and even the protagonists like getting better as time goes on.
Yeah, as terms of like the monster of the week monsters, 01 definitely has the best looking one so far. I guess we don't really know, like in Build and in X8, at a certain point they started just reusing the same ones over and over again. I don't know what the extent that's going to be like in 01. We have seen the same one twice so far.
Which
the
one?
Bat one?
The Bat one.
Oh.
Yeah, the Bat one. The Bat one looked exceptionally cool.
It was really, it was really cool. But
so I don't want to spoil anything.
You don't need to spoil anything, but that's just my observation.
Yeah, we don't need to go into this point, but I just wanted to make the point that I think the villains, the monsters of the week, look exceptional in this series.
I agree.
And
they just get better as the series goes on, for sure.
The CGI of them like transforming, is like really good, which the CGI in Kamen Rider is traditionally awful.
I like, well, usually the transformation CGI is not so bad.
Yeah,
but I like when the human gear transform it. They get like all the wires and everything come out. It's
really cool.
And form the armor around them.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
So we could talk about Yaiba in this episode. Well, obviously, so of course we find out that she is also a Kamen Rider.
Yes.
Kamen Rider Valkyrie. But she also had a lot of other like less noticeable details in this episode, where she like kind of made the sushi humor gear scan something, and then it's revealed later on that she used that to like spy on Naruto.
It was like, oh, you use the I forget what they're called now.
Yeah.
I forget what the phone was called, but it's like a control for the human gears, and also it records your information so the human gear can scan it, and then it knows what kind of sushi she likes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, but also kind of awesome.
I didn't actually even remember that. I just know for Izu in general, this is the earliest that I've seen a female Kamen Rider in a
For Yaiba, you mean?
in yeah, for Yaiba, sorry.
For Yaiba,
I this is, what is this, episode 3, and we have a
Yeah.
female rider in Kamen Rider? That's crazy. That's
But
pretty cool.
She definitely used it to spy on Naruto, and then kind of reported back to a mysterious dude that we saw his shadowed backside sitting on a chair.
Yeah.
We don't know who he is.
We have no idea who he is yet.
Zach knows who he is. I think I know who he is based off of the Henshin videos I saw and some stuff I just know about.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
We definitely learned that Yaiba. So Yaiba, we haven't talked about her character at all. I don't think about Kamen Rider. Thanks, tacos. Yeah, we haven't talked about Yaiba at all yet. So Yaiba works with Fuwa at Ames. Yaiba is she's the like a weapons administrator. So she decides what kind of weapons the other soldiers, I guess. It is a military, so yeah, she decides what the weapons the other soldiers get to use. Fuwa is like the squad captain or whatever, so he's technically he ranks above her, but she controls the weapons, so it's like a weird dynamic that they have where she doesn't want to give him access to the progress key that he has at first, and that's when he decides that he's just too angry and he just opens it on his own with his pure blinding rage. So then we find out in episode 3 that she also has access to her own shot riser and her own progress key that she got from Ames, which lets her turn into Kamen Rider Valkyrie using the dashing cheetah progress key. But we also find out in episode 2 that she's pretty shady and clearly not only working for Ames. So we don't know too much about that, but we know that she's got ulterior motives than what she's showing Aruto and even Fuwa.
And I think I think just now, then, like, once Yaiba gets introduced as a Kamen Rider, now we've got 3, and I think that all 3 of them have different views on AI and Humagears in general too, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that becomes like, that's one of the things that I wrote down, is that like Aruto's kind of like, I know you guys haven't seen Kamen Rider Forze, but in Gentaro style, he's just like,
he's
robots
super,
are all like my buds,
Yeah, he's like almost blindly optimistic.
Yeah, they're just like your pals. And then Fuwa is like, they all need to die.
Yeah, the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
So we never actually explained anything about Fuwa. He hates Humagears because he was there apparently when the break day town, whatever, it didn't happen. He was in school and a bunch of Daybreak town. He was like in school, it seemed, and all the Humagear allegedly, according to him, turned like evil and went berserk, and they caused the explosion of the town. Yeah, is what he believes.
That's what.
So because of that, he hates Humagears, and his goal is to.
So his
rage extends from his hatred of Humagears because they attacked him as a child, and he believes that they are the reason that Daybreak Town exploded. So that's like literally just the basis of all of his rage, is that he hates Humagears.
He's kind of got terror-y energy from Double.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
but I liked Fuwa immediately.
The fact that he's like, like a kind of like a cop, like cop looking too.
Yeah, he's like a cop.
Yeah, because he's always got the tie.
He's definitely somewhat putting up the tough guy persona, because of like when he loves Aruto's shitty jokes and he has to fight to hold back laughter while he's shaking.
That's the my
best
favorite personality trait.
Yeah. It's so good.
So that's okay. So we've got Aruto that like loves the robots. They're all my friends. We got Fuwa that wants them all to die, and then we've got Yaiba that gets introduced as a Kamen Rider in the 3rd episode. And for her, it's a little bit dicey because she kind of comes in and she's like, they're useful. They're useful tools. They're like, you know. But then at the same time, she's like, "Oh, don't worry about killing them. You can just restore them from a backup." So I think
Yeah.
she kind of sees them as like just tools to be used.
So the way I see it is she does see them as tools, but she also treats them with respect. Because
Yeah.
the way she treats the sushi chef, Aruto doesn't like really, he doesn't see anything wrong with it because she is nice and kind, and she compliments him on the sushi that he makes and everything. She does treat Humagears nicely.
Yeah.
But she does also see them as tools and that they should be used as tools and all of that. So she's kind of in between, I would say, Fuwa and Aruto.
But
Although
she is still
Fuwa's on
highly
kind of a
sus.
different level, and she is very extremely highly sus.
So one thing we didn't talk about her henchman very much. She's got probably
She's
one
got
of my
one of the
favorite
coolest.
one of my favorite text to speeches of any of them. It's try to outrun this demon to get left in the dust.
Pure
it's
gold.
it's just great.
I love when she pulls the key out and it just spins in her hand. One of the
Yeah.
coolest things I've ever seen.
Also, her finisher just was awesome. So obviously she's part of AIM. She henshins with a shot riser, so
Shot
she has a
riser.
gun, and she's a cheetah, so she's really fast.
Yeah.
So she just runs in a circle around the Magia and it's shooting in the middle, and it like creates a ball that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and then explodes. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
She's super cool.
Yeah.
I love every writer in this show. Like I like Yaiba is so cool. Her costume, like the cheetah design, it's so sleek and like she looks like she'll kick your ass like without even trying.
Yeah.
The
it's so cool.
only thing about this episode that I find kind of, and it's not even a problem, but it's just that we get introduced to a new Kamen Rider, and that Kamen Rider basically takes care of a bunch of fodder, and Aruto in his new form takes care of the big bad. So we don't
Yeah.
actually get to see Valkyrie, which is Yaiba's Kamen Rider form, actually take care of the big bad in this episode. She just kind of gets introduced and then just
Yeah.
wipes the floor with a bunch of grunts.
That's unfortunately like just the state of Kamen Rider. That female characters don't get a lot of anything.
Yeah.
So it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. I think we can probably move on to episode 4
Hold
now.
on. I just wanted
go
to
ahead.
say
Yeah.
it's not
Episode
about the
4
show.
had-
Oh,
yeah.
hold on. You know how Yaiba her key spins?
Mhm.
When you buy the Shot Rise belt toy, it comes with the shooting wolf and the dashing cheetah, and it comes with a little bit that you put on your hand so that it can spin freely, and you
Nice.
can henshin just like Yaiba. I just wanted to put that out there because that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, episode 4.
Episode 4 is the bus.
Episode 4 has a lot going on, so Jesse, you can go ahead and take the reins.
Oh,
on
that's
that
right. Episode 4.
That one's the one with the bus, right?
Though
yeah.
yes, yeah, with Anna.
Anna. So yeah, they take the bus. Aruto gets on this bus with Izu and a bunch of kids. It's like a school trip, I guess.
It's a tour bus.
A tour bus. They're going to like near the location of the break day.
Daybreak.
City. I have never Daybreak City. And the tour guide Anna is a Humagear whose job is to tell people about the events that and history of this place. So Aruto's going just to learn about the that background and how it involves his company potentially. So they get there, they're off the bus and they're like walking around and they're talking, and of course Metsu Bojinrai shows up and turns the bus driver into a Magia, who one of the coolest Magia we've seen so far. It's the bat.
Yes.
Aruto doesn't henshin, right? Fuwa shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as
shows up.
usual, Fua's like, determined to be like, oh, it's the evil human gears that are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Fua shows up, probably Henshin's, and starts fighting him. But
He I think he berates Aruto too because Aruto is there. He's like, "What the fuck?
Yeah, what are you doing here?
What are you doing? There's an evil human gear, and
And
you're
he's like,
here."
why are you always here when these things happen? So I think Aruto then like finds a place to Henshin to not be seen
Yeah, he
and
hides.
starts joining the fight. But then the guy's a bat and he just can chill in the air and Aruto can't do anything. So Izu hands him a new form, basically.
New key.
New key. Which is
But
that
that doesn't happen right away.
Oh, he gets away, and
Yeah,
then
because the
later
bat
on,
gets away. Because they have to fight the thing for Izu to analyze it and figure out. Well, it's like
right,
Izu and Zaya. Izu's connected to Zaya.
You're right.
They have to analyze it, figure out what the counter to the Magia is.
You're right.
So the bat gets away. They kind of do like they get everybody out of there. Then they go back to
we get introduced. Wait, we get introduced to the kid, right? The kid.
Yeah, there's the
called
kid
Sakurai, that we find out is like the son of
a worker who was working in the
factory.
It was a power factory or a power plant in Daybreak Town. That's right. It was the Humagear factory in Daybreak Town. And the kids are like bullying him because they think that his father is the reason that Daybreak Town blew up.
They think his dad's like responsible for Chernobyl, basically.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So he just gets bullied all the time because they think it's his father's fault. His deceased father, mind you, who he's getting bullied about. So they end up interviewing the kid back at Hidden Intelligence in Aruto's office. Fua is there. The tour guide Anna is there, and they're asking him about his father, and he explains that his father was like a safety.
He was like the operator of the factory, the safety.
Yeah, he was like he was in charge of safety. So it's even more egregious that like it blew up and like was seemingly his fault. So they're just interviewing the kid, and then they start getting into what actually happened at Daybreak. I think it was like 12 years prior, 10 years prior.
Yeah, and I think at that point, right, Aruto starts getting doubtful about his company, I think, for the first time, right? And then he starts asking like one of the other board members or like the vice president or whatever. He's like, what went on here?
He's asking him for info.
For sus about like...
Yeah, he just won't tell him.
Yeah.
And at the same time that Aruto's doing that, Fua and the kid have left. And Fua is like talking to the kid and he's like, do you want to know what happened? And they both kind of decide to go to Daybreak Town on their own and try to find clues and try to figure out what happened. Because Fua believes that it was the Humagear, so he obviously already doesn't believe that it was this kid's father's fault that everything happened. He knows, in his head, he knows it was the Humagear's fault. So they both decide to go to Daybreak Town. So the kid and Fua are at like the entrance. They get met up by Yaiba for some reason. Somehow knew he was there. Fua and Yaiba have a bit of a conversation. She gives Fua a new key. And then Fua takes off his tie because he's off the clock. He's not working today. So Fua and the kid get on a boat, or they get ready to get on a boat to go like into the middle, because So Daybreak Town right now is like a lake essentially with some ruined buildings like poking out on top. So they get on a boat to go like towards the middle where the factory would have been. As they're getting ready, they get attacked by.
Doesn't Naruto show up first? Naruto.
Does he show up first?
Yeah,
No, they
Naruto-
get attacked first, and then Naruto shows up.
No. Naruto, Izu, and Anna show up. Then they're all like, "Why are you here?" Whatever. Then they get attacked by the bat, and that's when Izu gives him the Falcon.
No, right.
Key?
So that's what happens. What happens, you're right, is they get attacked after Naruto shows up. Fuwa's fighting off the Magia. Fuwa's fighting off the Magia because nobody knows that Naruto is 01, and that's when Naruto decides like, screw it, I want to be he wants to be a transparent CEO, which is his reason for trying to figure out what happened at Daybreak Town. So he decides, screw it, he transforms in front of Fuwa. Then I think the bat shows up. They're attacked by regular like Magia that are like guarding, and then the bat shows up after Naruto transforms. Then Izu gives Naruto the the Falcon key.
Yeah, but can I just say,
Yeah.
this being the episode that Naruto decides to just be done with the secret identity and everything and like abandon,
Yeah, it's a big deal.
that cover up, but it plays into the larger theme of the episode, which I think is like unveiling the truth.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's 100% like he reflects on, like, he thinks about the company and how they're keeping secrets, and like he already said he wants to be transparent, and hiding his identity as 01 is already something that he's keeping a secret from people. Which I'm sure it's something he'd been thinking about. He's like, I want to be transparent. Why would I hide my identity?
But that juxtaposed with the whole truth of what happened on Daybreak Day,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
whole thing is definitely intentional too.
Also revealing it to Fuwa, like, immediately. Aims who are trying to basically arrest him for no reason.
Yeah.
And he's just like, fuck it. Ames can know that I'm 01. It helps.
Yeah.
It definitely will helps show like Fuwa that Naruto is genuine, because Fuwa doesn't believe anything Naruto has to say. Up until that point, Naruto is just hidden CEO, and he's hiding everything, and he's the reason that the Human Gears did everything, because he's the CEO. And at that point, Fuwa's like, well, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. And then they kind of, he holds off the Magia so that Fuwa and everybody else can go and continue their investigation.
Yeah. He gets this flying falcon for him.
Yeah.
That says, spread your wings and prepare for a force when it
Spread your wings and
when it
prepare
heads-
for a force.
It's another good
And
one.
it's like a pink form, so it's very cool, and he can fly. It lets him fly so that he can fight the bat Magia, who can also fly.
Yeah.
So
So Naruto fends off, starts fighting the Bat Magia and tells everyone to go on ahead on the boat to the factory, which they do. And then when they get to the factory, of course, there's more of those grunt human gear Magias that starts attacking them. So Fuwa starts, he's taking them on in human form for a bit, and he decides to finally use the Punching Kong progress key, where he just turns into like a gorilla based form that's super powerful.
got good punchies.
So he's what?
Just before that happens though, so they're searching around it. They find the kid's dad's office.
Yeah, this
So
is
they-
as this is happening. Yeah.
No, it's before.
Okay.
So they find it, and they start looking around for clues. Eventually they find a like a little looks like a micro SD card. And Anna takes it from the kid. Then I think then they get attacked. She inserts it either as they're getting attacked or just before they get attacked.
It's while they're getting attacked, because this is what happens. He's punching Kong Fua, takes out the grunts, and then Aruto and the Bat Guy come crashing in.
Yeah.
Then Anna puts in the chip. She's like, "Oh, there's all this data," and then the Bat thing infects her. The wires go out from the Bat Guy.
Yeah.
And turns her into
Magia.
Magia.
Yeah.
And then they destroy the bat. But then she's like about to
Yes.
kill the kid because they were sitting together. But then
yeah.
the data and the chip
No, I think
plays
it's
stuff.
she
like, fights
resists she resists the reprogramming and then plays the video on the chip, which shows what exactly happened during Daybreak. And we find out that it was Metsu Bojin Rai hacked the factory, set loose all the human gear who were reprogrammed to attack humans, and we find out that the kid's dad locked down the factory so the human gears couldn't leave, and then activated the self-destruct. So essentially he sacrificed himself to contain the terrorist attacks so that nobody else would get hurt. So it turns out that the kid's dad is a hero. Aruto takes this information and then he releases it to the public
So
as part of
everyone
his
knows
no
what that-
transparency policy, so that everybody knows now what actually happened that day, and the kid doesn't get bullied anymore because his dad's a hero.
Yeah, and once the video stops playing, something shoots into Anna and basically disintegrates her.
We do see
Yeah.
the purple looking person.
Yeah, well, no, we see it shoots in. I wasn't done.
Oh.
He shoots into him, fucking dies,
Yeah.
and then
Anna's-
you see
Anna's
Jin
dead.
and Hirobi walking down a hallway, and they're
You-
talking. Like
You
it's
see
straight
you
up just them.
well, you see Hirobi. I don't know if you're probably
I
right.
think he walks up.
Because he's transformed.
Yeah,
Which
we get to
he
see
was-
Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider Hirobi. Yeah,
Hirobi,
he was in
yeah.
the video telling the
Yeah,
the kid's
as
dad,
the Kamen Rider form, yeah.
yeah. Then he shows up, secretly kills Anna, and then we see him and Jin walking down a hallway.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
so that's that episode.
Yeah, spread your wings and prepare for
Prepare
a
for
force.
the
I think.
I
Yeah.
love
Oh.
Falcon 01.
Yeah.
Enough power to annihilate a mountain.
Yeah,
Howard and
that's the
Island
one.
Town is punching
Yeah, we had
Kong.
two
Punch and
text
Kong.
to speech moments in that episode that I think were really great.
Yeah.
Also,
Not-
punching Kong's finisher was like a rocket punch.
Yeah, he's got
Oh,
rocket
yes.
punches. Yeah, that's the best part about him. His design for me is pretty meh, but I
Yeah.
like the
rocket punches.
rocket punch.
Okay, so the next one I actually have a really good fact about. So,
Go for it.
okay, so episode 5 now. This time around, I think we're back into our formula. In the last episode, we had a lot of story progression. We had a lot of plot lines that were exposed in unlocking the truth about Daybreak and different things like that.
Yeah,
In episode 5, though, I think we go back to our Monster of the Week formula, and Aruto ends up meeting a superstar mangaka who he's a huge fan of.
yes,
And then he discovers that, unfortunately, that that mangaka barely writes manga anymore, leaves most of the storytelling to the editors, and basically just works his Humagear to death while they work on his manga for him. And basically, Aruto's goal in this episode is trying to change the worldview of our mangaka, right?
yes.
See Humagears as people and make him regain his passion for writing manga again. Now, the thing I wanted to point out was that our mangaka
Mhm.
is the same actor that played the Beast Dopant in Kamen Rider Double.
Really? I
Yeah.
did not notice that.
Yeah. The mangaka in this episode was the Beast.
Oh, that's why he looks so familiar.
Yeah, that was the note that I took for that one.
That's
But I thought that
awesome.
was really cool. Yeah.
That is really cool. I like that a lot.
So, I mean, we learned that like hidden intelligence. I don't know if it was pointed out before, but apparently hidden intelligence has like a rule where the company is supposed to replace the human gear within 24 hours of like malfunction or whatever.
Yeah, this is the first time, which I think like kind of like retcons why they replaced the sushi chef's human gear, right? Like why it feels heartless, but like it's company policy to do it. So I think it kind of retcons that and gives that a little more of meaning.
Yeah. And we learn a lot about the mangaka in this episode, and then the whole thing is supposed to be like, you know, the mangaka is like this jerk who redeems himself in the end, and eventually regains his passion for writing manga, right? And I think that the passion that is reignited when he sees Aruto fight the Magia of the week, and seeing the crazy action that ensues in that warehouse combat scene that takes place between 01 and the Magia.
And punching Kong.
It's pretty thematic too, because the episode where they're talking about passion is the episode that Aruto gets a fire power.
Yeah.
Which helps reignite the mangaka's passion. Is like pretty cool thematically.
To briefly overview, you want to go?
Yeah. Okay. So the O's thing that I was mentioning earlier was actually from this episode. So Aruto in this episode uses all of the forms that he has access. Well, three of the forms that he has. Sorry, I shouldn't say all. Three of the forms that he has access to, namely the falcon, the tiger, and the grasshopper. Which course are the three animals that form the Taka Tora Bata combo of Kamen Rider O's.
That's true.
Okay, well I hate to burst your bubble a little bit because he does use shark also.
No,
which goes to my point of how I was going to overview this. So the monster is like a drill monster who's really hard.
Yeah.
So when he henshins, Izu says use the shark to try to like bite through him because the fangs that can chomp through concrete. So he uses the shark, tries to bite him, but the thing's too hard, gets away. Izu then goes to the satellite, I forget what it's called,
Zaya,
to make the countermeasure, which is the flaming tiger or whatever.
That's not what happens though. That's not how that happens.
That's a brief description of what happens.
Izu and Aruto are talking, and it's Aruto that comes up with the countermeasure.
Okay, I didn't remember that.
And then she goes to Zaya to make it, because Aruto comes up with it. He's talking about fire, and then he remembers the fight, and he sees Fuwa, I think it was Yaiba who shot it. The blast bounces off of him.
It wasn't Yaiba. Yaiba gave Fuwa the shotgun.
Yeah,
in that episode.
That's right.
And Fuwa used the shotgun that's super powerful.
The blast bounces off his head, and he sees it. He sees like the heat, and that triggers it in his head. While he's talking about passion, like fiery passion, he makes the connection that heat is what this Magia is weak to.
Yeah, somewhat burst your bubble, but he does use shark in that episode.
I still think the Tatuba combo is a thing that happened.
But so he uses he uses shark in that fight, but I think in the second fight he starts off Hopper, then he goes Hawk, and then he uses Tiger in the warehouse.
Yeah, and I think that's when I realized this is
Falcon.
O's reference.
Sorry. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. That was a Kamen Rider O's reference if I've ever seen.
He used them in that order, which is not exactly the right order, but it's still very much Kamen Rider O's.
Yeah.
That's true.
And so obviously the Tiger form has its own text to speech, which is explosive power of 100 bombs. I just love how specific it is. Exactly 100 bombs.
Exactly 100. Yeah. Fire authorized.
I don't have any water right now.
I don't remember everything else.
I will hydrate.
Okay, you hydrate. I don't have any water on me.
That was the note that I had for this
Thank
one.
you,
You guys already mentioned the shotgun, which was the attaché shotgun. I looked it up while you guys were talking.
There you go. Yeah, it's also a briefcase. Yeah, I love it.
obligatory toy sales.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
for-
100%. New
And I
accessory for the
guess
figures.
Kong form is the only one that's like strong enough to use the shot, because it even blows him back when he uses it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, when he's
Yeah.
in Shooting Wolf, yeah, I think it's the next episode where he realizes that Kong can withstand it. I had more to say. Oh, my favorite scene from that episode is Fuwa is watching Aruto just shoot fire at the Magia, and he's just like watching the fire go, and he's like, "Yeah, burn him, yeah, do it." Like,
I don't remember that.
He's just like, it's just a shot of Fuwa and fire going past him. He's like, "Yeah, burn him," and it's like, what? Like, he's straight up just watching him burn this Magia. It was so hilarious to me.
Yeah.
One thing we have to mention for this episode is also that random ass scene where Hirobi says to Jin, "You are my son."
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty important.
That's the very end. He tells Jin that he's his son.
Yeah, which I think tells us two things. That tells us these guys are straight up robots, right?
Well, yeah. Well, at least one of them is, because if you watch, the characters are basically appear to be the same age.
Yeah.
One is not old enough to be the other's father.
Well, so it's in the next episode that Jin, because Jin like starts freaking out about it, so he asks Hirobi, and Hirobi tells him like, "Yeah, you're a Humagear that I created,"
Which is very interesting because Jin does not act like a Humagear, so he's got his own special tech that he used for Jin, potentially.
I'm sure we'll find out.
At the end of the last episode, we see the mangaka reformed, actually drawing again.
Yeah,
and
because he has no all of his Humagear were
I think he had
destroyed
one at that point.
Because G-Pen was the one that got turned into the Magia, so they gave him a new G-Pen.
Yeah.
But he didn't get the other ones were destroyed. So he just didn't get those ones back, or he didn't want them back because he rediscovered his passion for drawing manga.
Yeah. So the next episode, I think, opens up with it's like an audition for an anime, and it's the audition is being done by a Humagear.
Yeah.
Who we actually saw get ordered in the last episode.
Yeah, we saw her in the last episode. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw her. Yeah, we did see her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's some like old man's. He ordered this Humagear who's performing, and then I think pretty early on, as they're leaving the studio, Fuwa shows up and he's like, "That's legal because I did some research and you made that Humagear look just like your daughter who died 3 years ago, and it's illegal to use a real person's likeness for a Humagear, even if it is your daughter."
Yeah.
So I don't want to break the tone of this conversation because I think there's a lot of themes to be discussed there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I put something in our chat and I want you guys to look at it, because as soon as they leave the studio in that like first scene, there's a Kamen Rider Build Easter egg reference to Banjo Ryuga.
Oh my god, there is.
Oh.
Yeah. So when they leave the studio in that scene, there's like a half dragon, half man boxer poster that's in the window, and that's a very clear reference to Kamen Rider Build, which I think is actually very cool. I just wanted to share that with you guys. And also in the corner of that image, there's like a little rabbit, which I think is a reference to Sento Kiryu. And I think that's really, really cool too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you guys get a chance, go back and like zoom in on that scene, because that's really, really cool.
Absolutely.
The text on it literally apparently says Banjo, the blue text. And then there's the white slogan at the top that says "Never lose."
There you go.
Yeah, I feel like I just can't lose, which was his catchphrase.
Yeah, that's 100% Banjo.
Nice. So that whole confrontation happens. They let the dude in his Humagear go for now. I think Aruto like asks Fuwa to let them go for a few days because they have like an audition.
That happens
Yeah.
later. That happens later
Okay,
on.
that happens. I don't know why. Anyways,
I
they
can't
let
remember
him
why
go.
he lets them go. I think they get attacked. Something happens. I can't remember now. You're right.
You're right. They do get attacked. They get attacked. The girl, the human gear gets like hit on the head and it like
That's
kind of
right.
breaks
She
her
gets
thing.
damaged. Yeah.
And then Jin shows up, presumably to turn her, but then the guy who ordered her, who's her father, like protects her, and he's like, oh, are you her parent? And trying to understand what it means to be a parent and a child.
Yeah.
And then he like runs away because he's confused.
Right.
Then they tell them that they've got an audition in like 3 days. So Aruto convinces Fua to not take her away and let her at least do the audition.
Yeah.
Then at the audition, so she also obviously she's supposed to call him like Mr. President, but in private she calls him Papa. But she's like malfunctioning and she's doing it in public. And then they go to the audition and she starts auditioning and then just stops and then starts like talking about her dad or whatever. And he's like,
Yeah.
"What? Stop!"
He's bugging
Tries to
out.
stop her. That's when. Did they already steal the Falcon thing by then, or not yet?
No, I think at that point, I do think that Jin steals the Vulcan progress key.
He steals it in the first encounter before the audition.
Yeah.
Okay, so before Jin runs off after talking to the human gear, he had stolen the Falcon progress key from Aruto.
Yeah.
And then, so at the audition, he turns the human gear into a frog.
So
Magia.
I remember. Yeah. That's right.
And then Hirobi shows up.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, here, son, put this on." And he gives him a special belt. And he gives him he either gives him or puts in the Falcon key.
Yeah. It's the Force Riser.
Yeah, so he gives him the Force Riser. But it's not the same one that the regular human gears were.
No, the one, yeah, it's like yellow and it looks different. The human gears, he's the Zetsume Riser.
Right. So he gets that, turns into Kamen Rider Jin, and it's a Falcon motif, a pink.
He's pink.
Falcon motif.
With
his helmet looks like
turquoise
Hirobi's.
eyes. A little bit, yeah.
Really cool design.
I love the Falcon Kamen Rider Jin design.
Yeah.
Pink and silver with turquoise eyes. Top notch.
Yeah, so he's a bit of a problem, starts fighting, and I think Yaiba shows up now with the progress key that we saw her get at the end of one of the episodes.
Yeah, I believe the last episode she got a new key.
It's apparently 200% stronger than
Rushing Cheetah, and it was called the Lightning Hornet key, if I remember.
Lightning Hornet sounds right.
Yeah.
It
was
Lightning Hornet. She henshins with that. Looks really cool. Piercing needle with incredible force is its catchphrase. It's text to speech.
Yeah. It's also a very super freaking cool form. It's like it's yellow and blue with some white, and it looks like a hornet's nest. It's got like holes that look like.
Yeah, it's got the honeycomb like look to it.
Yeah.
You know what my favorite part of the form is?
What?
She's got like these like energy wings.
Yes,
that show up.
I was gonna say that. Yeah,
Yeah,
she also has a flying form now. So she's there essentially to take care of Jin, who can fly now, since Aruto can't fly anymore.
Is this the episode with the assassin, or is that just the next one?
That's the next one.
Okay, good. So yeah, she fights off Jin, who gets away. They beat Frog Magia.
Yeah.
And then they give the owner of Magia like a special AI that's it's basically like an Alexa, but it's his daughter's voice.
It's got his daughter's voice, yeah.
and he's super happy with that.
Yeah.
And that's that episode.
Yeah,
And the next episode. Oh, you go.
Well, I mean, I thought it was really like weird that the guy gets like an Alexa version of his daughter at the end of the film. Like, it doesn't really allow him to like really grieve her passing.
It's in my opinion really messed up, and I don't think they should have done that at all. But
Yeah, but it's fine.
his goal is
Okay,
to make people smile. So
Yeah.
Is that okay? So here's my question that I actually wanted to ask. So,
Yeah.
okay, in X8, Emu has bringing people's smiles back,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Build Sento fights for love and peace.
Yeah.
What is Aruto's like catchphrase or thing,
Well,
other than just making his "That's a joke by Aruto."
Well,
thing?
so his thing is to make people laugh.
I guess.
That's like his motivation. He wants to make people laugh.
It's very similar actually to Emu Hojo in that he
it
wants
is.
to protect people's smiles. I think it's like the same exact thing actually.
His catchphrase, other than Arutojo Naito, is the only thing that can beat you is me. That's what he says when he's fighting people.
Is that like the I found the winning formula?
Yeah.
Or the victory of law has been set, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's
I don't
that's
remember
his
that,
thing.
but maybe I just haven't noticed.
He doesn't say it a whole lot at the beginning, but it starts coming up more. He said it in I think the last episode we watched.
Okay.
Maybe the one before that, I don't remember.
And also speaking about comparisons to X8, since I don't know if we mentioned it's the same writer.
Yeah.
It is a lot like X8 in the sense of introducing like a lot of writers early on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
absolutely.
First 3 episodes we get 3 writers.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, you're right. It's exactly this. Like, there's a lot of things that I think parallel X8 in that way. And even the way that Jin is portrayed is a lot like Paruto was introduced in X8 as well.
Yeah, Jin and Hirobi are so similar to Paruto and Graphite.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
They just don't have a again. At least yet. No one with godly talents.
No one with godly talents. True.
Yeah. So then the last episode we watched, episode 7, we have my second note that wasn't just a text to speech.
Yeah.
And it's Mr. Kobe. So basically, the humor gear of this episode is a basketball coach at a school, and Aruto's called because the principal thinks the coach is too hard because the parents of the kids like complain because they are stuck training for they're doing basketball practice for too late.
Yeah.
He's a basketball coach. His name is Mr. Kobe. Obviously, it's a reference to Kobe Bryant.
Now, the tragic thing there is that I think this was filmed before the passing of Kobe Bryant.
It was the year before.
100%.
It was in 2019.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we have this reference to
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, obviously, just a legend in every way, shape, and form. And Kobe Bryant actually speaking Japanese and being,
True.
someone that is immersed in Japanese culture as well, unfortunately passed away.
So
sometime after that. So
yeah,
it's kind of like a too soon kind of thing, but also a nice like homage if you look at it that way.
Yeah. 100%.
But obviously it pops out as soon as we started the episode, and they told us the name of the Hiwa gear.
Yeah. That's also the episode we get introduced to the assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, Jin has this assassin Hiwa gear who is really goofy.
Yeah,
but he's basically like Android 16 from Dragon Ball Z. He's programmed just to kill Aruto.
So Hirobi explains it. So Jin doesn't know who he is at first. Hirobi introduces him to or Jin to the assassin, and he explains that the assassin gets stronger the more data he acquires from fighting, and he's specifically built to fight 01 because that's who their enemy is at the time. But his thing is that he gets stronger and he gets better at fighting the more he fights, essentially. That's what he does. And he has his own, they give him the progress key right away. So he has his own progress key to transform, and it's, you say what it is before he,
I don't remember.
it's Dodo.
Yes,
Dodo.
yeah,
He's got the
Yeah.
Dodo. I know what it was. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to say it yet. It's the Dodo progress
it's
key.
Dodo. Yeah, they
Yeah.
do say it right away.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I think they're together, and then Yaiba shows up and starts fighting Jin.
Yeah, Yaiba and Jin and Assassin are trying to sneak in and attack 01, but Yaiba shows up to stop them.
And so Yaiba takes this own key. It's like a blizzard key or something, and she puts it in the assassin's belt, and it freezes him. And then while she's fighting Jin, a van pulls up, and they kidnap him.
Assassin. Yeah.
And then once after that happens, Yaiba disengages, and then Jin's like, "Mr. Assassin, where'd you go?"
He's just confused and starts looking for the assassin.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, that happened at the school, so the school has become off limits. So Mr. Kobe's told like, "Oh, you guys can't practice basketball here, whatever." So everyone leaves. Then Naruto goes back, and obviously finds out that Kobe and the kids disregarded orders and were practicing basketball in the gym, which is something that stands out because human gears are not supposed to be able to disregard orders.
Yeah. It should be mentioned as well, when Naruto showed up for the first time to meet the coach, Fuwa also showed up and had interest in everything. So Fuwa also just wants to so the principal wants to reset the coach so that he starts back at 0 and is not this hot-blooded coach that is all about training the students, because the students basketball team it's only made up of 5 people and they've never won a game. So the principal just sees it as useless to train so hard. He just wants the coach to, be there to watch them for their after-school club and then go home when clubs are done, which he's not letting them do, and the parents are all pissed off about it.
Yeah. So, and Naruto finds that the coach isn't actually, like, being harsh on them. Like, the kids like the practice.
Yeah, that's the thing.
He's just a good coach.
Yeah.
So all that, they find the coach there, and so Naruto lets the coach and the kids practice at Hiden headquarters, basically, so that they're not breaking any laws.
Yeah.
So they do that, and then after the practice, Naruto talks to one of the kids who explains how they never won, and if they don't win this upcoming game, they're all probably gonna leave the club. And move on. Then he's talking with the principal later, and he's saying, and the principal's like, "So reset him." He's like, "No, I'm not going to do that. He's not showing any malfunctions." And then Mr. Kobe comes in. And he's like, "If we don't win the upcoming game, you can reset me."
Yeah, he takes on the challenge.
Yeah. So then we get to the game.
Yes.
And it shows the game they're playing. It's a really close game. The main kid that they had talked to and everything, has like a free throw at the end, and he fucks it up, and they'd lose.
Yeah, they lose.
So the kid's all dejected. They're all sad. They're like walking back, and so Mr. Kobe just is like,
Well,
How do I explain it?
so the kid just is lagging behind, and he tells Kobe that he's gonna quit the basketball team.
Right.
And then Kobe starts giving a speech, and then in the middle of his speech, he starts reaching singularity, so he starts becoming self-aware.
Yeah, and then that's when Jin shows up and be like, "Oh, 01, you're seeing a Humagear become self-aware."
Yeah, Aruto's like, "What's going on? Is this what I think it is?" And then Jin like kind of confirms it.
Yeah,
and
then the assassin shows up.
No, that's not what happens. So Jin slaps the belt on Kobe, puts in the mammoth key, turns Kobe into a Magia, and then they fight Aruto fights Kobe. Meanwhile, elsewhere, we see the assassin like kind of just like hanging out, standing there, and we see Yaiba kind of like hiding with her camera recording him, and she records the assassin transforming into Dodo and then terrorizing people.
Yeah, it's weird.
And we're not entirely sure why, but that's what we see. I think Fuwa shows up to fight him. Somebody shows up to fight him. I don't know if they both fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if they both fight Kobe. I think it's just. Oh no! So
I don't. Yeah.
01's fighting Kobe. And then Yaiba shows up, transformed into Cheetah, and gives Aruto the Blizzard key that she used on the assassin earlier, and that is what gives him his new form, the freezing bear,
something like that. Fierce breath is cold as Arctic winds.
Yeah, I love that one.
But and Aruto's obviously a little apprehensive to just take a key from someone who isn't Izu.
No, I think he is a little.
And she's like, you can trust me. I'm the head of weapons
of Ames. Yeah. He is, but then like as soon as she says that, he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool," and he's like has no problems taking it. Yeah. And yeah,
you guys go on. I'll be back in a second.
Sure. Yeah, so he's got this cool ass bear form now. And it like the other forms, it replaces bits of his armor, but some of the new armor is just kind of see-through, so it looks like ice covering his body, and it's super cool.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Super, super cool. I don't remember what happens to Dodo, to the assassin. I'm assuming Fuwa beats him, but I have no memories of that. That's bad.
I don't remember either, to be honest. But I know they beat Mammoth. And...
It might have been both. It might have been Fuwa. Like Fuwa catches Yaiba, and then they beat him, and then they go help Aruto later. Might have been one of those.
Yeah, I don't
because
remember.
Yaiba ends up with Aruto. So
yeah, and they beat Mammoth Kobe, and they make a new one, obviously, and he's the coach still, and then more kids after seeing the performance that the team had that was so close to winning, show up to join the team. So the club starts to.
The club starts growing. Kobe is relearning how to coach. No longer having hit singularity. And that's how the episode ends. I believe. There might have been one more scene where Yaiba meets her shady friend.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I think there was, but it ends on that note.
Yeah, that's all the episodes we've watched so far.
That's episode 7.
Welcome back, dude.
So we finished talking about episode 7.
Awesome.
So yeah, do we want to just like give our final thoughts on the episodes that we watched? Then we can say goodbye.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we went through. I have like we talked about everything that I wrote down. So yeah, I have expectations for the future and then final thoughts. So we can combine those even and just do that. So I want your guys' opinion because I know what happens obviously in the show. So what do you guys think might happen? What are you guys thinking so far about it?
I can't say because I think I know a little too much. I don't want to run into spoilery territory.
You can say what you think. I know for a fact what happens. I won't give it away if that's what you're worried about.
No, what I'm trying to say is I know who the person that Yaiba is talking to is.
You kind of know who it is. You don't know a lot of details about them.
But I know enough that I can't really separate my thoughts from that.
It doesn't have to be just that. There's other, like, you know, what do you think about what do you think is going to happen to Metsubojin Rai?
I really have no idea is the thing. I could see a world where Jin like rebels against Hirobi. He's kind of been mentally unstable since he found out that he's his son.
Right. That's true.
So, you know, I mean, I can see the whole Peridot situation there with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he turns around.
I agree with that. I think in true Kamen Rider fashion, I think the first villain that we're exposed to is never the final villain, right? So I think Metsubojinrai.net is probably just, you know, the arc villain that we're going to be dealing with, and I think the man in the chair that I don't know anything about is probably something to do with the next villain that we're going to face. It's probably going to be like the larger threat at hand. I think we've seen elements of Jin maybe being more of a anti-hero or maybe to join our protagonist in some way, shape, or form. It is like kind of a tough sell because I've seen Jin be a little bit maniacal and like the man that carries the gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see how that plays out.
We've seen big turnarounds in other characters.
We have definitely seen big turnarounds in other characters.
Very true.
But I do think that Metsubojinrai.net is probably not the big bad of the series. We'll probably get to that. I think we're going to explore a little bit more the themes of like AI and what that means for humanity and like robots and personal robots and things like that. I really hope the series does expand a little bit on that because I think there's a lot that can be said regarding that theme. So I hope we explore that further. I hope for Aruto's sake, he comes through to Fua a little bit more, and I want to see Fua laugh wholeheartedly.
We just got that amazing face at the end of episode 7.
Yeah, I really hope that you know that relationship grows. I want to see the characters interact a little bit more and see the dynamics between them and things like that. I think we've got a really good cast, a really good supporting cast, and you know, I personally can't wait for next week when we get through the next chunk of episodes.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited to watch through this again. I just love these characters and I love all of the suits and everything. And there's a lot of moments that I can't wait to relive. Yeah, I'm super excited to finish this with you guys for sure.
Sick.
Anything else? Do you guys have anything else you want to say?
That's it for episode 1. Wrap it up, Chief.
Do you guys want people to follow you on social media? You can plug anything. You can plug anything.
Not. I have nothing to plug.
Okay. All right.
Tune into a giant robot, twitch.tv/a giant robot, where I I'm a moderator, a brother, and I participate in some content.
Likewise, I honestly I mirror that as well. I hope anyone who's watching will stick around because a giant robot will be streaming some video games later according to his regular schedule. So stick around. I think Jesse and I will be there as well. So tune in for more content.
Yeah, if you guys want to watch these live, if you're watching on YouTube, you can head to twitch.tv/a giant robot, where I stream video games and also now this podcast. So if you like it, you can follow. You can, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That would also be super cool. And yeah, anybody who's still in chat, if you want to stay tuned, I'm going to be back in a little bit playing video games. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching this inaugural episode of Kamen Up Next. We really appreciate all of you for being here. I had a lot of fun. I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait to do this more for sure. Hopefully the nerves are gone now, and next time I won't be panicking for 90% of the episode. But yeah, I think we can call it there. Thanks again, everybody. And we will see you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.